Yesterday, let me just clarify on a couple of things before we get into this story. 32 girls and their families with the FIFA-registered Afghan women's youth national soccer team were evacuated to Portugal. We told you that yesterday, in great part by the help of the Pakistani Prime Minister and your donations. You probably have read stories about the soccer players getting out before the U.S. troops left, but that's a different national soccer team. That's adult players. They were evacuated to Australia. These girls are on the youth national soccer team. They were in real trouble after the bomb went off and the U.S. troops withdrew. Their rescue is really nothing short of a miracle. They are FIFA registered, but FIFA. But I was...
See, again, you said FIFA to me off the air 25 times, and then you get on the air and you say FIFA.
Yeah, anyway.
That is true. It's another
I
example.
know.
And this is why you're in the Radio Hall of Fame.
That's exactly right. They're like, this guy somehow made it. I mean, that's worth Hall of Fame.
We're not saying the show's good. We're just saying he kept a job this long. It's amazing.
It's amazing. FIFA was not involved in their rescue, but they were monitoring the situation. Nic McKinley is with us now. He is the founder and executive director of DeliverFund. How are you doing, Nick?
Doing good, Glenn. Thanks for having me.
You bet. Nick and I have not met until yesterday, and DeliverFund is, well, explain what you do and how we came to know each other.
So DeliverFund, we are a counter-human trafficking organization, and we work primarily with law enforcement in the U.S. and overseas to identify human traffickers so that they can rescue the victims and hold the human traffickers accountable.
Little did I know, and I think you didn't know this either, little did I know, Mercury One is one of your major sponsors. And
that's correct.
And here we are. We tried to find each other recently. You tried to find out who was running these planes out of, and gosh, we've had such close relationship, and neither of us knew it.
And little did we know we're right down the road from each other.
Yeah. So Nick, tell me about the girls and how all of this happened.
The whole thing happened because to kind of start at the beginning, DeliverFund was working with the U.S. administration on counter-human trafficking policy, laws and things like that. And then when Afghanistan went high order and all of a sudden everything just started being the chaos that it is, the administration reached out and said, hey, we need some help getting people out of Afghanistan. And, we're a pretty apolitical organization in that our focus is on human lives. Mm-hmm. And so we'll work with anybody to just to save those human lives. So we started working with the original group of U.S. government personnel that were getting people out. Helped with the Khalid Wardak rescue, helped with a bunch of other rescues of people who were working for the administration or for the U.S. administration through all the administrations during the war. And it's important to understand that the Taliban was telling these people, we're going to kill you and sell your children. Mm. So it's kind of an ultimate, poke in the eye to their enemies to be able to do that. And since we're counter-human trafficking, that's right in our skill set. And so we started helping to evacuate people. We're originally doing that through Eagle Base. That's all over the media. Nothing classified about that, which is the CIA base in Kabul. And then we got asked to help get out the girls' soccer team. We thought this would be yet another easy operation. We'd put them into the same mechanism. Everything would be just fine. And then suicide bombs started going off.
That people don't
changed
everything. People don't understand how much that changed everything. When that suicide bomb went off, doors were closing immediately. Nothing that everybody had planned was going to happen.
Absolutely. And then once that suicide bomb went off, kind of the rules of the game on the ground started changing by the hour. So you'd put together an entire plan to get somebody out, and then 4 of the mechanisms in your plan were no longer viable. So it was just this constant pivot. Internally we were saying it was like building an airplane while you're flying it. It was incredibly difficult operating circumstances, and we didn't have time to be all over Instagram and all over social media to be trying to talk about what it is we were doing. We're just trying to get the work done. Then fast forward to we had 2 failed missions where we're trying to get these girls out, and one of them, they're literally watching Eagle Base burn to the ground while they're standing about a half a kilometer away from it. That was their way out. Tried again the next day. We had them within about 40 meters of the Black Gate. A lot of people understand what that is. And then couldn't get them out because the U.S. military would not open the gates.
Jeez.
So we sent them home, and then very rapidly, the Taliban started going door to door looking for young girls. And once we started getting the cries for help from the girls saying, the Taliban are on our street, we had to pivot very, very quickly. And so we implemented a mechanism we had on the ground to get them into the north and to figure out how to get them out of the country. And that was when the real heroics started. USAID in the current administration was kind of running the lead on this, and they were absolutely phenomenal.
I'm glad to hear that.
And it was excellent to see, with everything that's going on in the political environment being what it is, there were some real heroics from all sides. The first thing that we knew was we had to have a landing place for these girls, because it's important for people to understand we see them as young lives that need to be saved. But many countries around the world saw them as a busload of expensive refugees. And we had to counter that by showing that these are lives. These are people whose lives matter. I mean, these are teenage girls who, were the Taliban to get their hands on them, were going to be forcibly raped through a forced marriage by somebody anywhere from 20 to 40 years their senior for the rest of their lives.
I was,
and we can't stand by and let that happen.
Yeah, and this is why the Nazarene Fund, we spend a lot of money on the aftercare, because we can't just dump them into countries won't take them, and so we'll teach you a language, we'll give you a job skill, we'll pay for your housing for a year just so you get your feet settled, and then you've got to perform. And they do. We've seen it in Australia. They will perform. They will meet those standards. But no country just wants, 10,000 refugees that have no place to go and no one taking care of them.
That's exactly right. So that was the first problem to be solved. And between USAID kind of pushing the diplomatic envelopes back and forth, and Senator Coon's office was absolutely instrumental in making it happen. So the country of Portugal stepped up and said, we'll provide political asylum for these girls. That was absolutely phenomenal. That is what needed to happen in order to trigger everything else that was needed to get them out of the country. Because before, we were working mechanisms to try to get them into other countries, and the other countries said, sure, we'll let them stay. We'll even let them stay here for 30 days. But we want to guarantee that they're following on somewhere else, and we're not going to have to take care of them forever. So for Portugal stepping up and making that happen really, really launched the entire operation. So once we got the political asylum, then it was a matter of, getting overflight clearances and all things that you're familiar with. But then it was, okay, now we have the problem. Can we get them out over land? And that was becoming an increasingly less viable option.
Yeah.
Plus, we're talking about a bunch of teenage girls. In that part of the world, these girls are commodities. So how are we going to guarantee if we take them out over land, especially if they're smuggled out, that they're not going to be abused along the way? So air was really the most viable option. And we had heard that there were folks who had lines on airplanes. couldn't really figure out who that was in the beginning. And yet at the same time, we were burning thousands of dollars a day housing and feeding these girls. So one of our donors, Andrew Duncan, stepped in and said, "I'll cover that cost."
Wow.
And that was a huge help because we were able to then have a little bit of breathing room to be able to figure out who's the magic people who have these airplanes who seem to be able to get things moving. And then that's when we were introduced to Rudy and the Nazarene Fund. And from that point, the collaboration between us and Rudy it just was incredible. And there's a really important piece here that's really a feather in the cap of the Nazarene Fund. That is, go ahead.
No, go ahead.
And that is the fact that the Nazarene Fund was smart enough to have credit with CAM Air. So, it's one thing to be able to pay for an airplane. And, thanks to Andrew Duncan, we were able to pay for those airplanes. But it's another thing to be able to pay for the airplane right now, because obviously wires take a long time to clear.
Yeah.
And so that was very smart of you guys to have that credit so that as soon as there was a window of opportunity, we're able to take advantage of that opportunity and fly right then and there.
Well, Rudy is, he's been running this operation for the Nazarene Fund, and he's just amazing. I think it's a miracle. Him being placed where he is now has just been miraculous. He pretty much runs all of the airspace now for any kind of operation like this. He's kind of really doing all of it in Afghanistan, which is crazy, just crazy.
Yeah, and it's interesting. I see all these groups out there saying, "Oh, we have planes, we have a manifest," and when it all comes down to it, it's all Rudy. Rudy's the guy making it happen.
I know.
Everybody.
I know. All right,
so you guys did excellent hiring him.
If you are looking for a really rock solid group to invest in, that's the way I look at charitable money. It's an investment in people and who does the best job and who gets the most right to where you want it to go. DeliverFund.org. It's something that Mercury One has been investing in, if you will. DeliverFund.org. We've helped them for several years, and we're thrilled to be able to help them with the Nazarene Fund on the ground. But please donate to DeliverFund.org. So the other thing is, and Donald Trump and I were just talking about Prime Minister Khan, who he said was a big part of his plan to hold this thing together. Prime Minister Khan has been amazing, along with General, I think it's Nazir. What is his name? Do you remember? But they've been remarkable in putting this together. I don't know how it happened, but I think he was like a fan or something. And I was asked to write to him because he'll listen to your email. And I'm like, what? And he did. And tell us the role that he has played in this.
So Prime Minister Khan definitely deserves our thanks and a debt of gratitude for what the role that he played. And I think it's important for people to understand why. So, they say that luck is when preparation meets opportunity. Personally, I like to say that luck is nothing more than divine intervention, and there was some serious divine intervention going on here. So Prime Minister Khan, turns out, as I understand it, actually listens to the Glenn Beck radio show, and so who saw that coming? Yeah, and so what was needed in order to get these planes to take off was for somebody to interface with the Taliban. I happen to find myself fresh out of Taliban contacts. And so somebody had to do that because whether we like it or not, the Taliban is the government on the ground in Afghanistan. And there's nothing Nic McKinley is going to do about that. And what we do at DeliverFund, we always work within the system to enhance the system. We don't work against the system. So if we're going to get these planes off the ground, it's only going to be because the Taliban allows them to take off. So that was a real problem, and it took weeks to figure out how to solve that problem. So even though all the heroics had been done on the diplomatic side, somebody had to get the Taliban to allow the planes to take off. And even almost more important than that, somebody had to tell the Taliban not to mess with the passengers who were going to get on the plane.
Nick, I got a report last night that when the girls came to the airport, because Pakistan had said, leave them alone, when they got to the airport, not a single one was even asked. They were just asked for their name. They weren't asked for anything, and they were left entirely alone. Just go to the airplane. And
that is all because of Prime Minister Khan.
It is. Thank you so much, Nick. I appreciate it. I hope to talk to you again and hear some more of your stories. And thank you for everything that you and your team are doing at DeliverFund. If you'd like to donate, deliverfund.org. Deliverfund.org.